In the name of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Carrie and I got back from a wedding not too long ago. And at the wedding, the DJ had all the married couples come to the dance floor. I don't know where DJs have gotten this sort of license to feel like they can embarrass anyone they want to, but whatever. Then he said, so we start dancing, such as it is. And then he said, if you've been married longer than 5 years, stay on the dance floor. So a couple of people left. And then it's longer than 10, and we were still there. Then it's longer than 15, and we were still there. But at that point, there were only 2 couples left. So I began to worry just a little bit. Because this may shock you, I am not a good dancer. So then he says, and then salvation comes. He says, if you have been married longer than 20 years, stay on the dance floor. Well, thank goodness, we were still weeks away from our 20th anniversary. So we were able to step away from the horror unfolding, and off the floor we went. But at the time we were sort of, you start to realize, you think about this, 20 years. That's quite a stretch, isn't it? And I don't know about you, but I still think of us as being 20 years old. So we would have had to get married as kids for it to be 20 years. And I guess, in a way, we did, though. We sort of all do, don't we? And this past week, I have to say, as I watched the scenes coming out of Afghanistan, and with our anniversary approaching, I tried to remember how it all started. And I couldn't help but think back 20 years ago. And for us, I had to think back to 9/11, and it seems like a lifetime ago, and just yesterday at the same time. You see, Carrie and I, we got married on September 8th in 2001. And we were in Memphis, Tennessee, and we were getting ready to head back to New York, where I was working. But we had some stuff to do before we were to fly out. We needed to pack up wedding gifts. We had to get our suitcases packed. We had to head over to a small storage unit and put the rest of my stuff onto a moving truck so we could head to New York. And then later that morning, September 11th, we were supposed to fly back to New York to get our new lives underway. And so I watched with confusion as the first news reports came in, and I called my office to talk with my boss, and of course things were even more confused there. And then while I was on the phone with him talking about travel plans, the second plane hit. And then so many plans were upended, and so many lives were changed, and so many lives were ended. And with the end of those lives, something else was beginning too. You could just feel it. A grim determination that we would strike back. And I remember watching the scenes. We were on the first flight back into JFK Airport on Friday, and the plane banked, and there were just 2 towers of smoke surrounded by light. We landed, and the airport was like a military occupation. There were soldiers and armored vehicles all around. And we got back to the block where I was living at the time, right near the United Nations building, and the block was ringed with armored cars and National Guard soldiers checking ID before you could get on the block. And it felt like another world. And in a way, it was. You see, we were entering this new phase, this war on terror. 20 years ago, we all channeled all the anger and sadness and frustration and helplessness and grief into this new war. And I was for it. I was ready for it. I wanted to see those scenes from Tora Bora where the mountains were shaking with bombs, and I wanted to see our guys go in with sniper rifles and tanks. I was ready to see the announcement that we had killed the perpetrators. Now, as I was remembering all of this, I also decided I should go ahead and take a look at the lessons for today's sermon. You must understand this, my beloved. Let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, for your anger does not produce God's righteousness. For your anger does not produce God's righteousness. Now, I am not a policymaker or a military strategist, but some part of me wishes that we could have heard those words more clearly, that I could have heard those words more clearly 20 years ago. I wish the hijackers could have heard them. So 20 years later, can we hear them now? I don't really want to have a debate about ending the war or not ending the war, or ending our presence in Afghanistan or not ending our presence in Afghanistan. In fact, the most heated discussion that Carrie and I had in our almost 20 years of marriage, and that is a euphemism, discussion, was over whether I would join the military to head over to join those fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq. Because I can still remember the rage I felt 20 years ago, and I cannot say that I am enough of a saint now to not want revenge again if it happened today. But we can see the costs more clearly now. We can ask whether God's righteousness is what we have produced. This week, 170 people died in one cowardly attack at the gates of the airport. 13 Americans, 2 Brits, 155 Afghans. Marine Corps Staff Sergeant Darren T. Hoover, 31. Marine Corps Sergeant Johnny Rosario Pichardo, 25. Marine Corps Sergeant Nicole L. Gee, 23. Marine Corps Corporal Hunter Lopez, 22. Marine Corps Corporal Dagan W. Page, 23. Marine Corps Corporal Humberto A. Sanchez, 22. Marine Corps Lance Corporal David L. Espinoza, 20. Marine Corps Lance Corporal Jared M. Schmitz, 20. Marine Corps Lance Corporal Riley J. McCullum, 20. Marine Corps Lance Corporal Dylan R. Marola, 20. Marine Corps Lance Corporal Kareem M. Nikoy, 20. Navy Hospitalman Maxton W. Sobiak, 22. Army Staff Sergeant Ryan C. Knaus, 23. Steve Nikoy, the father of Kareem from California, said this: "I'm still in shock. I haven't been able to grasp everything that's going on." He said he was born the same year it started and ended his life with the end of this war. Riley McCollum of Wyoming met his wife after moving to San Diego for boot camp after high school. And with just weeks left on his first tour of duty, his family expected that he would be home just in time to meet his new son or daughter. They hadn't told him yet because they wanted it to be a surprise when he got home. Mark Schmitz, the father of Jared, said his life meant so much more, and I am incredibly devastated that I won't see the man he was quickly growing into becoming. And in one of her last social media posts, Marine Nicole Gee posted a photo of her tenderly holding an Afghan refugee toddler with the caption, "I love my job." And she died only days later. These are just 4 stories of those 13 stories, 4 of the 170 this week. And the poem that came to mind as I read those bios was Robert Lawrence Binion's For the Fallen from 1914. "They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning we will remember them." I guess the question is how? How will we remember them? What might yet change? The estimates are about 241,000 people have been killed in the Afghanistan and Pakistan war zones since 2001. More than 71,000 of those have been civilians. 241,000 lives and stories cut short. The combined total death between Afghanistan and Iraq are estimated to be between 480,000 and 507,000. Add to that the 2,996 from 9/11. They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. You must understand this, my beloved, let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, for your anger does not produce God's righteousness. Another story, another headline was also in the papers this week alongside those casualty reports. An Afghan girl, spirited to safety while still in her mother's womb, will not only have a gripping story to tell about her dramatic delivery, she also has a high-flying name to match. The baby girl's parents named their daughter Reach after the call sign on the Air Force C-17 that evacuated them on August 21st to Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany. Reach 828, the C-17, had departed from an intermediate staging area in Qatar on Saturday with a plane load of evacuees when the unnamed Afghan mother on board went into labor and began having complications. The aircraft commander descended in altitude to increase the air pressure in the aircraft, which helped stabilize and save the mother's life. And aided by medics, the mother delivered Reach in the cargo bay of the aircraft. A group of female evacuees surrounded the mother and held up their shawls to protect her privacy, an Army nurse said. Then she said it was just a beautiful sight to see. The mother was past the point of no return and had to deliver in the cargo bay rather than at a hospital. And when the baby arrived crying and the mother was able to quickly begin feeding her, the Army nurse said she knew it would be all right, and the nursing team is anticipating more births, more pregnant women arriving on evacuation flights. Nurse Breimer said, "I feel quite honored and humbled to be a part of this mission, and just kind of the sheer humanity of this," she said. "I mean, we are people, and they are people, and we both want the same things, healthy and strong mothers and babies." This is the chance, I suppose, for a new story to be told. A story of human beings reaching across the vast differences between us with love. The chance to welcome new life and new lives out of the devastation of our choices and our bitterness and our anger. For it is from within the human heart that so much pride and folly come. It's the chance for us to look into the mirror, as the epistle says today, "For if any are hearers of the word and not doers, they are like those who look at themselves in a mirror. For they look at themselves, and on going away, immediately forget what they were like." Let's not forget what we were like. Let's not forget the cost of anger and rage, which cannot produce God's righteousness. Let's also not forget that in the cargo hold of a plane that sped away from the horrors of war, a new life was finding a new story. And now it is up to us to shape that story, to look into the mirror, to find the courage to say the names of those we lost, to cherish their memories, and to commit to a new hope, to reach for something more, to be the first fruits of God's lasting peace.